Today we're taking a look at Sigma's I-Series 65mm f2. But first, if you're new to the channel, my name is Anson, and on this channel we talk about filmmaking, specifically budget gear, tutorials, and a behind the scenes look at the projects that I'm working on. So if that's something you're into, consider subscribing. Now, a couple months ago, I did do a run through of all the I-Series lenses and compared things like focus breathing, lens flaring, and overall sharpness. And so I have had this lens on the channel before, but I did talk to Sigma about testing out this lens for other purposes, but I figured while I have it in my possession, let's do a quick review of it. I do want to mention that Sigma has sent me this lens, but as always, they're not requiring I say anything specifically, and so you can get my full and honest opinion. So as always, let's break down this lens by image quality, build quality, and my overall thoughts, / who I think could be useful for. And let's start with image quality. Now, overall image quality on this lens is just stupid sharp. Much like any Sigma lens, when I review it, I had to put a Tiffin quarter strength black pro mist on the lens, but even then it's still very sharp, which is very good for photography or even some scenarios where you need a clinically sharp lens for the project you're working on. But know that going into it, you're getting a very sharp lens. I do find that the 65mm is a nice focal length for some good subject isolation as well. I used this lens this past week for a kind of like walk around street photography or street videography lens, and that was a very interesting way of using it. It's probably not the intended purpose of this lens, but one thing that's really helpful is because it's a native L-mount lens, it does give you the ability to use electronic stabilization in the Sigma FP. And so legitimately, this was my run and gun setup with the 65mm and the Sigma FP. Now, what is this, you may ask? We may see something about that here in the future. But overall image quality was really great, really sharp. Once I put the black pro mist on there, it just really created an amazing image. So with that, what do I think about the build quality of this lens? One thing I really like about this lens is the manual focus and autofocus switch is actually going up and down rather than forward and backwards. Why that's helpful is because sometimes I like to use autofocus to grab a single shot autofocus and kind of go from there. And so I can flip it up with my left hand as I'm holding the lens, get my single shot autofocus and flip it back down to get it in manual focus and adjust accordingly. Another thing I appreciate is it does have an aperture ring, and something that I noticed that Sigma lenses do lately is they offer a declicked mode. This does not offer that, and I'm not mad about it because the declicked mode on some of the other lenses, while it does offer a declicked option, it doesn't really respond in real time. There's some delay, and so you lose the benefit of that clickless aperture when you're using those lenses with the declicked aperture ring. And so with this being just a clicked aperture ring, I prefer that if you're not going to have real-time response with the clickless aperture. But in regards to build quality overall with the I-Series lenses, I do appreciate what Sigma is doing with these lenses, keeping them a little bit more compact, but also having them be really robust and sturdy. So with that, let's talk about my overall thoughts and who I'd recommend these to. My overall thoughts is just like the 45mm, the image that comes out of this lens is really impressive. I've really enjoyed shooting with it this past couple weeks. Now, as far as who I'd recommend it to, I'd absolutely recommend it for anybody that's doing street photography or street videography. Maybe it's an accent you're trying to isolate, but the 45 doesn't have enough reach. That's where this lens comes into play and is really nice. I really think it'd be helpful for people that maybe aren't into street photography or videography, but need a good 65mm prime and don't want to spend an arm and a leg on it. And so I definitely recommend it for anybody that's on a budget and wants a good 65mm prime, or somebody that is into street photography or videography and want a little bit more reach than maybe a 35 or a 45 would offer. And so that's it for me. If you guys do have questions about this lens, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe, be happy, support each other. Wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace.